Family Farms and Floods, Oh My, by Emily Mason. Published by Emily Mason on the date December 1st, 2020, at Mason Home Studios with help from my family. Of course I won't. This is where our family is, and this is where our family will stay, Father told Mother. Yes, but James, there's talk about a flood coming. The river is rising, Mother said. Bah, that's just the sharecropper tales. We run our own farm and we're staying on it, Father said, and it was final. Helen slowly made her way back to her room, trying not to creak the floor. She crawled into the bed that she shared with her little sister Margaret. Helen ran over the conversation that Mother and Father had just had. Was the river really rising? What if there was a flood? Little Margaret didn't know how to swim. Helen finally fell asleep and woke up when the rooster crowed. Helen sat up and put her dress and leggings up. Margaret stirred beside her. Margaret, let's get up, Helen said quietly. On the other bed, Charles sat up, wide-eyed, like he was surprised a new day had come. Charles and Margaret were both younger than Helen. Margaret was only 3, while Charles was 9. Helen was 3 years older than Charles. Helen, Charles, Margaret, Mother called from behind the door. Helen rushed over and helped Charles with his overalls. Margaret held on to Helen's hand as they went into the kitchen. Helen, help me with the porridge. Margaret set the table. Charles, your father's waiting for you in the field, Mother says quickly. Helen stirs the porridge until it thickens up, and then Mother rings the bell that carries across the whole field. A few minutes later, Father and Charles walk in, already smelling like outside. James, will you say grace? Mother says. Father nods and starts speaking. Dear our holy and gracious God, please keep my family safe and healthy. Keep our farm plentiful and bellies full. Amen. Mary, I'm going to need all the help to pick up the spring onions and spring cabbage. It's April and time to pick all of our spring crops. Helen and Margaret are going to need to help, Father says after he finishes eating. Mother nods. She doesn't show up, but Helen could tell she was disappointed. Today was laundry day, and Mother needed all the help she could get. Helen and Margaret take different end rows and pick all of that row. Then put them in the baskets, and Charles, you'll help me, Father says, and all of the children nod. Helen, before you leave, help me clean up the dishes, Mother says. Though she's talking to Helen, she's looking at Father for permission. Father discreetly nods. Yes, Mother, Helen says. Margaret, Charles, and Father head out to the field under the dark sky. Storm clouds rumble as Mother and Helen clean the dishes. It's going to rain on them, Mother says, looking out across the field. The worry doesn't come out on her voice, but it shows on her face. Helen gently puts her hand on her mother's arm, trying to soothe her. They'll be fine, Mother. Margaret and Charles love the rain. Helen says truthfully. I'm not worried about if they like it or not. I'm worried about them getting sick, and the field needs to be picked today, and they can't do that in the rain, Mother says, the lines in her forehead tight. Helen cleans the last dish and then gets her boots on. Mother, I'm heading out to the field, Helen says to her mother, though it's drowned out by a clap of thunder. Rain falls down in hordes, drenching anything it touches. Helen sees Father's mouth moving, and Margaret and Charles pick up their baskets and run to the door. Mother, Father says we need our raincoats. We need to keep collecting the harvest, Charles said. And Helen turns to Mother. Mother nods and runs off. She comes back with 4 raincoats, and Charles and Helen put theirs on while Mother helps Margaret. Helen, give this to your father, Mother says, handing Helen the last coat. Helen nods and runs into the field. The coat helps for the first few minutes, but everything still gets soaked. Helen runs to Father and hands over the coat. Margaret and Charles continue on the row they were on, and Helen works on the row next to Charles. They work for hours picking the onions and radishes. When the bell is rung, signaling lunch, they barely hear it over the thunder. Margaret! Charles! I just heard the bell, Helen yells over the storm. Charles and Margaret nod and pick up their basket. Margaret can hardly pick hers up with her tiny little arms. Father slowly makes his way to their house. Mother helps everyone take off their coats and boots. Everyone wash your hands, Mother says, pointing to the mud and dirt covering all their hands. Helen, Margaret, and Charles rushed to the pump on the back of the deck. It was sheltered from the rain. After they had washed their hands, Margaret and Charles sat down at the table. Helen helped serve the soup and biscuits. Father came in and sat down at the head of the table. Mother finished placing everything and sat down. Father said the same blessing, though everyone didn't hear it because of the storm. James, I don't think the children should go out anymore, or you either. The storm is too wild. It could easily knock Margaret or Charles down, Mother said, looking at Father. Father is silent like he always is when he's thinking. You're right. We have picked enough for today, though I would have liked more. Children, sit down next to the fire and warm up, Father said almost tenderly. Helen, Charles, and Margaret sit down next to the fire and look out the windows. Rain thrashed across the whole house, and they could barely see the field since it was so dark. Rainwater was collecting in pools everywhere. Mother might be right about that flood, Helen thought. Helen hugged her siblings tighter and wanted to never let go. Helen, help me with the laundry, Mother called from the kitchen. Helen silently groaned. The rain is not letting up. There's no way we'll be able to pick the whole field. I just hope we have enough food, Father says, sitting at the table. Mother continues cleaning up. I don't think we should let the children know, Father continued. They would worry too much about it. James, I still think we ought to move, Mother said bravely. Father looked up, surprised by Mother's voice. It's just a rainstorm, nothing to move about. This is our land and our family's land. We aren't moving, Father says angrily. Mother meekly looked at him and Father stood up. I'm going to bed, he said, and he left the kitchen. Mother sat down at the table, head hung. Helen! Helen! The rain hasn't stopped, Margaret said, getting on her sister's sleeping body. Helen groaned and sat up. It's still raining, Margaret repeated. Helen looked out the window and saw the rain thrashing. She couldn't see the river behind the trees at the edge of the field. Other than the pump, they got most of their water from the river. Yes, it's still raining, Margaret, Helen said, then turned back around in bed. Mother hesitated a second right outside their door and then opened it. Children, it's time to go, Mother said cheerfully, trying not to look out at the rain and show her worry. Helen and Margaret walk into the kitchen and help Mother prepare breakfast. Father walks into the kitchen with his raincoat on. James, surely you're not going out there in this storm, Mother said, looking at Father's outfit. Mary, I can do whatever I need, and this farm needs to be harvested. I won't make the children do it, but I will, Father said. Okay, James, Mother said. Charles came into the kitchen, and Mother turned to him. Charles, you're late. Charles bowed his head and coughed seriously. Mother's eyes grew late. Charles, you're sick. Go sit next to the fire, Mother said, even more worried. Charles went into the kitchen and sat next to the fire. James, do you want to get sick too? Because you will if you go out there, Mother said, pleading with Father. Mary, I need to harvest this field, Father said, and went outside into the freezing rain. Mother looked like she might call out to Father, but then shut the door behind him. Helen and Margaret sat down to the table and ate their porridge quickly, and then helped Mother with the laundry that didn't get done yesterday. Mother, it's time to ring the lunch bell, Margaret reminded Mother, secretly hoping she'd be the one to pull it. Oh, right. Margaret, you go pull it, Mother said, and Margaret happily went and pulled the bell. Charles, Helen, Margaret, and Mother sat down at the table. They waited for Father to shake his muddy boots against the door and walk in. Mother, do you think he heard it? Helen asked, concerned. Mother stood up and rang the bell again. She waited a minute, then rang it again. No boots knocked against the door. Helen, I want you to bundle up in your warmest clothes and wear my gloves and boots and go get your father, Mother said. Helen nodded and went into the bedroom. She bundled up in her coat and wore Mother's gloves and boots. Helen walked to the door and into the rain. She shielded her eyes so she could see, but she could still only see 5 feet in front of her. Father! 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 Helen called out over and over. She searched the field looking for him. She looked to the trees lining the edge of the field and the river behind it. She saw a figure running towards her. Father! Helen yelled one more time as loud as she could. Then she saw what the figure was running from. Behind the trees the river was rising, growing under the rain. Soon it would overfill the banks and come rushing towards the field, the house, and her. She ran back to the house as fast as she could, and Father caught up with her. Helen, what are you doing? Father yelled across the rain. Mother sent me to get you because you didn't hear the bell, Helen explained. Father groaned and then yelled, Get inside! Helen ran faster until she reached the door. Father and her didn't bother to take off their boots. They rushed inside and slammed the door behind them. There you are! Your boots! Go outside and take off those muddy boots, Mother told them. Mary, our boots are the least of our problems. The river's flooded and the water is rushing this way right now. Take all the children to the attic right now and bring the raincoats, Father yelled. Mother rushed to the fire and grabbed Charles and Margaret and told them to go get to the attic. Helen followed and led them up the ladder. Mother crawled up behind Helen carrying raincoats. Father then came up and brought up the ladder. I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing that the attic doesn't have windows, Charles whispered to Helen. Helen agreed, but was too scared to talk. The flood is so strong. What if it just washes away our house with us in it? Helen thought. Children, don't go near the ladder. It could fall, and you don't want to be on it when it falls, Father said sternly, like he does when he really wants us to obey him. All the children nodded. Father, will the rain wash away our ponies? Margaret asked softly. Father's eyes went wide. The animals. I forgot about the animals, he said, looking at Mother. James, there's nothing you could have done for the animals, and you're not going back out there. I will not have you risk your life to save the animals, Mother said, and for once Father didn't argue with Mother. James, it's been 4 days. We're almost out of food. We can't stay up here forever, Mother said. She looked back at all the sleeping children on the attic floor. The flood had covered the bottom of their house, and the house was swaying in the water. I know, Mary, but we're going to have to wait it out. The river is probably flooding because of the snow in Canada melting, Father said sourly. Surely we're not the only house who this flood has affected. Maybe they'll send in people from the government to help us, Mother said, hoping they would. Why would they help us? Us farmers only supply them with their food. They never help us, Father answered. Mother nodded and laid down on her blanket. Father looked around the attic, thankful they had so much stuff up here. Blankets, wood, and even some old turnips they hadn't used. Father looked at his sleeping family and sighed. He laid down and fell asleep. Is anybody here? A woman yelled around the house. She stepped through the water and looked around. Is anybody here? She yelled again. One behind her searched and then said, There isn't anyone here. Either they got out or drowned. The ladies exited the house, then heard a cry. They looked at each other and walked back into the house. Hello? We're the Red Cross. We're here to help, one of the women called out. They heard a loud crack and were crying. Margaret, be quiet. I know we all want to get down, Mother said, trying to calm Margaret down. The ladder to the attic had fallen down, and Father's head was sticking out. Mary, the water's going down, Father said. The two women followed the voices and find Father climbing down. Who are you? Father said to the two women. We are from the Red Cross, a charity organization. We're here to help victims of the flood, the first woman said. Well, my family's been stuck in our attic for 5 days, Father said, pointing up the attic. Well, then let's get them down, both women said. The first woman climbed up and carried Margaret down, then helped Charles and Helen down. Mother climbed out last. Since your house is mostly intact, we will leave now, but if you need any help, we will be in town with other refugees. Goodbye, the woman explained. Thank you, Mother and Father said as they left. They watched the woman walk out of sight. Let's eat a good meal, then clean up, Mother said, walking into the kitchen. The end.